Okay, so for today, we will try to understand what is this means think in parallel. And we need to understand it. Then we need to understand what is promise.all. And after that, we need to know how to use two new keywords, which is async await, which are really simple. They will make your life simple. And after that, I will give you your new project to work on it. Fine, so let's go first to what we call think in parallel. If I go to think in parallel and I click on this diagram, I think, let me just check which one it is. This one. Yeah, but well, that's okay. So let's have a look at this diagram here. For now, you can ignore the concurrent, just focus on sequential and parallel. What do I mean by sequential and what do I mean by parallel task? So sequential tasks, so tasks that mean you need to do something. And most of these tasks, they will be asynchronous task. And by asynchronous task, I mean most of the time it will be sending a request to the backend. Okay, because that's a synchronous task. It will take some time to send a request to the backend to receive the data from the backend. So this is asynchronous code or task. So normally we have two approaches. We have the first approach, which is called sequential. Well, sequential, we don't do it most of the time, and unless we have to. Most of the time we do it in parallel. But what's that supposed to mean? Well, let's say I need to, for example, I will take an example of the users. Let's say here, that's my first task, and I need to get the user with ID 1. So I will send my task, get the user with ID 1. Then after my task is finished and I get my data from the user 1, then I will try to get user 2. After I get the user 2 data, then I will try to get user 3, and so on. That's what we call sequential. That means the task is being done sequentially, one after another. So if I make my first task or asynchronous task, here I'm asking for a user with ID 1. I will need to wait for the user with ID 1. I need to wait until I get the data, then I will send the second request to get user 2 with ID 2. When I get the data from user 2, then I will send the third request, and so on and so on and so on. So that's what you call sequential task. Parallel task, it's different. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say I have the same task, which is getting user 1, 2, 3, and 4. The ID, we already seen the user in JSON placeholder. Now, instead of waiting for the user 1 until I get the data, then send the request to get user with ID 2 and 3, and like that, I will send all the tasks at the same time. So I'm going to send a request at the same time, getting user with ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, ID 4. I will send them at the same time. And like that, as when I will get the data, so I'm sending all the requests together. I need to wait a little bit until I get my data. So now my question for you here, which approach do you think it will be faster to get the data? So here, as I told you, I'm trying to get user with ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, ID 4. But the point here, I need to wait for a user with ID 1. I need to wait for the data until I get them. Then I will send a request for user with ID 2. Then when I get the data for user 2, then I will send a request for user 3, and so on. Here, I will send all the requests at the same time, and then I will get the data, whatever I need to. Which approach do you think it's faster and why? That's a question for you. Yes. Let's go to the first one. Adil, what do you think, Adil?
I think it's the last one.
So this one parallel, it will be faster.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Agnieszka, do you think it's a sequential, it will be faster, or the parallel, it will be faster approach?
I think the same parallel.
Why?
Because they are doing it at the same time, the blue and the red.
Okay, that's a good approach. So here now in this example, which is sequential, I need to wait until I get the data from user with ID 1, then I need to send the second request. So as you can see here, the time, let's say I need to wait 1 second for each user with ID 1. Of course, I cannot know the time exactly for all of them. The time it will be different, but let's approach theoretically. Let's say the time I needed for this one, it's 1 second. That means I need to wait 1 second here, then 1 second here, then 1 second here, then 1 second here. It will be 4 seconds to get this for user. But here I'm sending all of them at the same time. So if this one needs 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, and this one, let's say, needs 1 second and a half, so I need to wait just 1 second and a half. That means this approach indeed is faster comparing to this approach, which is sequential. Is the idea clear? Of course, now that's theory. Is the idea clear? Is it clear what's the difference between sequential approach and parallel approach?
Yeah.
And of course, now you ask me, okay, if the parallel approach is faster, why we have this sequential approach? You may ask me this question, right?
Yes.
So anyone knows the answer?
Maybe the sequential is the old approach and parallel is the new one, or no?
Yeah, but there's something else, not just that. So here I can send all the tasks parallel, but here, now, sometimes if the task depend on the second task, for example, let's say I need the user try to log in into his page, so I need his data. I need the user data, so I will able to log him in his account, let's say. So first I need to get the user data. Then after that, I need, let's say, to get some information about the user account. Let's say, for example, how much money he has. Here I'm just trying to get his name and his password, his ID. Here I'm just trying to get how much money he has. And as you know, I cannot send the second request. Why? Because simply the user is not logged in yet. So first I need to do the task, wait for it, get the user, make sure the user has the correct name, username and password, log in the user, and then send the second request. Do you understand my idea? No?
Yes.
So if this task here depend on this task, I cannot do this task. I cannot know how much the user have because simply the user does not log in. I need first make sure to authenticate the user, make sure that the user has a correct password and correct username. So first I need to do this task, make sure this task is finished, then I can do the second task. So if the tasks depend on each other, so I will have to do it sequentially. That sometimes could happen. If the task does not depend on each other, so I can do it in parallel. Is the idea clear? Yes, no? Okay, if we understand sequential, we understand parallel. Okay, what is this concurrent? Can anyone explain me what is this concurrent? This one here, I need to wait for the task to be finished, then start the second task. This one here, I will send all the tasks at the same time. But what is concurrent?
It's like a request response.
It is like?
Request response. You have request and then you receive response. Request and response.
It's like the sequential, but with little bit different. What do I mean by that? Now here in sequential, I have to wait for the first task to be finished, then do the second task, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Here, no, I will send the request, and after this first task is finished, I will send the second request. And that's what we call sequential. So yeah, they are not happening at the same time, but I'm not waiting for this task to be finished. So when I'm sending a request for this task, before it's finished, I will send a request for the second task and so on. And that's what we call concurrent. Concurrent means they're happening at the same time. Okay, but they did not start at the same time. They're just happening at the same time. It's not like that all of them I'm gonna send requests at the same time. No, here I'm gonna start this one, then before this one is finished, I get the data, I'm gonna send the second one. Before this one finish, I get the data, I'm do the third request. And here I have to wait until this task is finished, I get the data, then I do the second one, and so on. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Is the theory clear?
Yes.
Good. Of course, we have some example about all of them. Not all of them. See, concurrence we don't have, but we have some example about if you go to sync in parallel here. I think we have promise.all here, some exercise and example. And here sequential and parallel, it's just some example to show you this stuff. So this is diagram just. So what I want you to do here, after that, when we are finished, we'll go through the example, and then you can just do the exercise here, promise.all. Okay, fine, we understand this one. But now if I want to do, let's go here. And let's say I want to do the task now. I want to do them in a parallel sorry, in sequential approach. So where was my diagram? Let's go to my diagram here. Helpful diagram, and I think it was this one, if I'm not mistaken. No, not this one. I think it's this one. Voila. Now I'm trying to do this one here. So I will send a request to get user 1. Then after I get the data, I will send the request to get the user 2, and then so on. And after that, I will try to do all of them at the same time. For concurrent here, you don't have to worry about it. It's just something theoretical. So I'm trying to do this approach and this approach. Okay? Yes, no?
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Agnieszka.
No. I just said yes.
Okay, I thought you have a question. Okay, before I do that, of course, now I'm trying to do a request to get the user. I will take user example. What was the website? Can anyone remind me what was the fake API? JSON, place, holder.
Placeholder.
So JSON placeholder here, I told you it's a fake API. We use it for testing, so I can go to the user here like that. Voila. And I can, of course, copy this guy here. That's the URL.
Samir, could you
Yes.
stop for a second? I will open the door for Gurkin, and I don't want to miss explanation.
Fine.
Okay, thank you.
Don't be late, huh? Okay, now let's say, of course, you know what's the URL I told you. I just go to JSON placeholder, as you can see. And in JSON placeholder, I have different resources, as you know. I have post, comment, blah, 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 users. We did some requests yesterday to get the user, so I'm gonna stick with the user because it will be a little bit easier for you. Now, what do I want to do? I want to create a function, and this function here, it will send a request to get specific user, either user 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Remember, we have just 10 users from ID 1 until ID 10. So let's say here, I will just create a function. I will make it arrow function. So I will say const get user because I'm trying to get a single user. And here, of course, it will be an arrow function, and I need to pass the ID. Why do I need to pass the ID? Well, because here, if I pass the ID as a parameter, it will be easy for me to use the same function again and again and again. So what do I want to do here? Well, I can return a promise if I want to here, return. I will use fetch, of course. I told you fetch. It's an API. We use it to get or to send a request to the backend to get the data. So now here in fetch, I need to pass one parameter, which will be, what it will be?
URL?
It will be exactly the URL. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to put it inside. Now, I told you before, if I want to get a specific user here, if I go to users, if I want to get user with ID 2, let's say, I just need to say /2, and voila, it will give me this object. And that's what I need to do here. So that's what we call the base URL, but I need to add slash, which will be here. I need to insert the ID. Remember, the ID is a variable, and I'm using backtick. How can I insert a variable here? How can I insert a variable in backtick? $, bracket, or curly brace, and ID. And now, voila, that's good. Of course, after that, what do I need to do here? This one here, this fetch, it will return a promise, right? Fetch, it will return a promise. Yes?
Yes.
So how I need to handle it? How can I handle this? How can I handle it? How can I handle a promise? How can I handle a promise?
Then in catch.
Yeah, I need to use consumer then. I need to say just .then, voila. That's all I need to do here. I don't want to name it this way. Actually, let me delete it and write everything. It will be better. So I need to say .then. I need to use consumer, of course. I delete this one. So I say .then. What does then take as a parameter? What does then take as a parameter? I told you then and catch, both of them take. What does they take as a parameter? A function wise. What's the problem is here? It take a function as a parameter, and here, because I'm sending a request, I will get a response. So I will name it like that. And here, all I want to do for now, I just want to return res.json, which will be the response.json. And as I told you, response.json, this method here, what it's doing here, it will go to the body and it will parse my data. That's what I want to, .json. Then I need to say that's the .zen. Where the hell is Zen? Zen is here. Okay, now I need to say .catch. And in catch, of course, it will also take a function as a parameter. I will get, if I get an error, I'm just gonna console.error the error. That's it. Nothing biggie. Error. And I need to just to do the errors. That's it. Voila. So simple. So what I'm doing here, as you can see, let's try to make it just two like that. And now that there's something wrong here. This cut should be out. Voila. This cut should be here. And now it should be fine. So what am I doing here? Voila. .catch. Thank you. Oh no, much better. So what, just like we did yesterday here, have a function which is get user. I'm passing the ID, and what I'm doing here, I'm returning a promise, of course, fetch. I'm passing the URL / the ID to give me the user whatever a user I want to, and then I'm saying .then. Of course, if I've sent a request, I will get a response. A response, it will be object, as I told you here. It's inside the functions, and I'm just returning here because it's arrow function. It will be on one line. I'm returning response.json. Response.json, I told you this method here, it's gonna, as you can see, it will parse the body.json. So it will parse the body. Parse this means when I receive the data, it will be in string JSON format. And this method here, it will convert it to JavaScript object or array. And of course, if I have any error here, I have the catch and I will get my error and I'm logging my error. So now in order to do this one here, if I want to use this one here, I need to say get user. And remember, I need to pass something. What do I need to pass? Get user, what do I need to pass?
ID.
ID.
Yes, so I want the user with ID 1, let's say. And of course here, remember here, whatever I receive here in res.json, it will be my data. And I told you in the promise, I cannot access any data if I'm not inside the consumer. So I need to say get user.then. Now here I will receive my data. I will receive my data, which will be user 1 or whatever. So here I can receive my user and log it this way. That's fine. Okay. Now here, what I'm doing here, I'm saying just here, give me the user and I'm logging my user, as you can see. Of course, now if I go to the console, so let's open it. Voila, I should have my user with ID 1. Fetch reload, and as you can see, I have an object with user with ID 1. So far, it's not something new. It's what we've been doing here. So that's fine. Everything is okay. Now, what if I want to implement now? Before that, I need to explain something else. That's fine. So as you can see, so far we have done this one. We're getting user with ID 1. I can, of course, if I want a user with ID 2, I can just switch the ID, and now it will give me user with ID 2. And if I go here, as you can see, I get the user with ID 2. Now, this code here, when we use fetch and we use consumer, which is .then.catch, it can be written in another way. We can use two different keywords to make our code much better. So these two keywords, can anyone tell me what are these two keywords? So how can I code these? This, as you can see, I have fetch, then I have .then, then I have .catch. Sometimes it's really annoying. So I have another way here. I can just write this code in much better way. But I need to know two keywords.
Wait.
Indeed. So I have async and await. So now my objective here, I'm going to write the same function, but using async and await. Of course, remember, it will be much easier comparing to this version. So let's do the same job. Here, I'm going to name it get user 1. Get user 1. And the second approach, I'm going to name it get user 2 and get user 2, okay? So here, we'll do the same function here, const get user 2. should be simple actually, it should be single, user 2. And here, remember something, if I want to use async await, I need to put something before here. I need to put here before this one. So before this parentheses here, after the equal, I need to add a keyword, and this keyword must be async. So if I want to use async await version, that's how I need to do it. First, as you can see, I need to add to my function here. I did not need to add anything here. But here, if I'm going to use async await, I'm going to just add the keyword async before the parentheses, as you can see. Now, if my function is async, of course, adding async means that I want this function to be asynchronous. That's what it means. Now, if I want to do the same approach, it will be super simple. What do I mean by that? Well, I can simply say const. What was this one here? It was a response, right? We named this one inside the Zen response, right? So here,
Yes.
just say const response, it's equal to, I need to use await. And I will do add the same. But now, as you can see here, there is a little bit different from my code than this one. And now here I can say const user, it's equal to await res.json. And voila. Okay, and now here, if I want to, I can simply here return users like that. So here, this one and these functions are doing the same job exactly, but this function is much more readable. Why? Because here, as you can see, I have a fetch zen.zen.catch, but here it's look like a normal code, as you can see. But I need to add this keyword await. But what is this keyword await? This keyword await simply is, as the name suggests, it's just saying, okay, wait until this fetch method go to this API and get the response. Then after I get the response, here I'm saying wait until this response body is being passed to JavaScript object or array. And then return me the user. So this code and this code is exactly the same, but of course this one is more readable. What do you think? Which one is more readable?
The second one.
Second one, but Samir, can you please disable the TypeScript extension because it looks confusing now
Yeah, okay, fine.
with gray text.
Yes, okay, toggle what it was in here. Voila. Is it better like that?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. So let's go back again. As you can see, here in this function get user one, I'm just returning a promise, fetch, I'm passing the URL, then I'm saying dot then and dot catch. Of course, you know what's this one here. But in this approach here, as you can see, it's a bit different. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm just saying here, response, it will be wait for fetch data. So I'm just, that will be a response. I'm just declaring a variable response and I'm waiting for until I'm sending a request to this URL. Of course, I will get a response. That's why I'm saving this data. Then I'm saying const user. Now I need to wait to parse the body to get my data. That's what I'm doing here, res.json. Here I'm just saying await res.json. And of course, now it will give me my user. Now, if I want to use this function, so if I want to use this function just like that, remember, I need to create another function. What do I mean by that? Well, when we use async await, your function, this function, by default, it will return a promise. If you want it or you don't want it. When you use async await, whenever the function is async, it will return a promise no matter what. What do I mean by that again? Now here, I don't have, in this function, I don't have to return a promise. I can remove the return and here I can access my data inside here, right? We've seen that before. I don't have to return a promise. But in case of async, if my function is async, by default, it will return a promise. So if I want to access my data here, I can just create another function and I can just say, of course, either I'm going to use again Zen and catch, which I don't want to, but I can say const. I can create another function, let's say log user. And this function here must be also async. So whenever I call the async function, also it must be async. Voila. Why? Because my function here, so I can just say const users. And notice here, I say await and I will call my function here. Okay. But I forget to make this one like that. Well, it must be a variable. And in here, I need to pass the ID. Just to make it 100% the same. ID, and here, of course, it must be ID. Voila. So in here, when I call this function, it will return a promise no matter what. That means this function also need to be async. Why? Because I need to use a wait. It's return a promise, so I need to wait for it. And in here, I can pass the ID1 or ID2, and then I can log it. It's fine. Voila. So let's comment this code. Voila. Now let's go to this version. And now here, if I refresh, what's going on? Get user here. Okay, I'm returning user. This is I'm not calling my function. So this function need to be called. Otherwise, of course, it will not work. Voila. What the hell is going on? I should get the users. Let's try to run this one again. And voila. Yeah, but why is that working? What I'm doing? Yeah. It look like I have infinite loop. Why? Just a second, just a second. Let's go again into here. Okay. Await user, and here we are logging log user. I think await user 2, which is get user 2 is not a problem. Log user 2. Yeah, because I'm calling my function. Stupid me. I'm calling my function inside my function, as you can see. It should be console.log. Did you get the idea? Did you see what happened or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
This one shouldn't be, this one should be console.log. Here I'm creating a recursion function calling itself. And now function, it will be, okay, perfect. And now here, if I go, of course, voila, I'm getting my user with ID2. So same approach, but of course, this one here is a little bit better. Why? Because here, instead of using .then and .catch, I can just use await, and here it will wait for me until I get my data. Then I can say user wait for response dot, that's my response, response.json to pass the data, and here I can return my user. Of course, I told you if you want to use a sync function, if you want to use it, it will return a promise no matter what. So if I hover over this function, see, it will return, even if I don't return the user, it will return a promise no matter what. And as you can see, it's a promise, see? So even if I don't return a promise, by default, it will return a promise. That's how I think by default, it return a promise. And that's the second approach. Is the idea clear? What do I mean by async away? Yes,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
It's perfectly clear for everyone.
And Samir, for example, in the first version, the then and catch, you have then and catch, and here you don't have catch, so you don't have error. So if you put the user 200 and you don't have user 200, it will be what? The response?
That's a good question. Actually, I have. How deep? Normally, we don't write the functions this way. Cut. Now, because I am not using, if I have a problem, I'm not using catch, but in JavaScript, we have something called try and catch. You heard of try and catch?
No.
So try and catch simply means I want you to try this code, try to execute this code. And if something go wrong, it will go to the catch block, and here I can just log same idea. Voila. Voila. So what do I mean by that? Well, try and catch that mean in JavaScript, when we have some code, we are not sure whether this code will be executed correctly or not. We use something called try and catch. So it's just like I'm saying, try this code. And if I encounter any error, it will directly go to the catch block and I will have the error here and I will log it. Voila, that's simply how it is. See, Agnieszka?
Okay, so we should always put try and catch.
Yes, in asynchronous code, when you do request, all the time we need to use try and catch, because if in here, if I do it this way and I have an error, it will not go to the cache. I don't have any catch. So all the time I need to use try and catch.
And in the try section is exactly the same that you had before, yes?
Yeah, so in try, it will be the same code as we did before, try to do this code. But in the catch block, as you can see, catch receive. So catch is like a method, as you can see. It's like a function, as you can see. It receive an error message. So if any error happen here, it will go directly here and it will log it. And here it will have my normal code. Same idea, no change. Clear now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now we need to understand this way, which is then and catch. But when you write your code, you need to write it this way, which is try and catch. Of course, you still can write in Zen and catch if you like it. But to be honest, this approach is difficult. This one is much easier. Is it okay?
Yeah, Samir, on the line 18, we use const user equal await rest JSON, but this is the way how we parse it. Yeah, we don't need to use await JSON, parse JSON and rest as a parameter. So
Yeah,
what?
let's remove this one. Let's remove this await here, okay? Now, normally, also, if I do this one here, I'm still, as you can see, I am getting my data here, okay? I'm still getting my data. Why? Because I'm waiting for this one here. So this guy here, this function to return a promise, I'm still waiting for it. So you don't really need to use await here, right?
No,
But-
no, my question not about await. My question is how to parse this data, what we receive from the backend. I mean, here we use res.json instead of parse JSON and res as a parameter. What's the difference between those two options?
You mean like JSON.parse, JSON.stringify, and this one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now this method here, this method or JSON.parse, just on the stringify, we just use it to convert JavaScript object or array to string or to object. That's the idea. But this method JSON here is specifically designed for web API for the backend. It will go inside your body because my data inside the body. So it will directly go to inside the body. If you just read it like that, it will go inside the body. And after that, what it's going to do here, it will parse the body, and because the body, it will be in JSON string format, so it will convert it to JavaScript object or array. So with API, whenever you are doing with the backend, you need to use this JSON. Okay, Daria?
Yeah, okay. But also we can use JSON.parse or not?
Oh, JSON.parse. Let's try. Let's try, but I don't think it will work. Let's try. Wait. JSON.parse. And here I need to wait for, so if I'm going to use JSON.parse, I need to access the text here, if I'm not mistaken. But let's see, I will get the same data if I'm not mistaken. I am getting my data. So if I'm going to use JSON.parse, it will not be res.json here. I need to access the text because the text here in the body, I need to go to inside it, and inside it, I need to go to the text. So you can use it, but it will not be res.json. It will be res.text. And
Okay.
and as you can see, this one is more difficult than just using res.json, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's better just stick with this one, res.json. Okay, fine. Now we understand this method here. Now let's try to go to our example, which will be sequential request versus a parallel request. So cool. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm gonna demonstrate or show you how can I send multiple requests using here the sequential way. So I want user 1, then user 2, then user 3. First, of course, I need to get the data from user 1, then I need to get user 2, and then I need to get user 3, and so on. So how can I do that? Well, I can just create my function const, and let's name it get users, plural, const, get, thank you, get users. And here it will be, I will use async await, okay? So I'm here, I will use async. I need to put my parentheses for the function, and voila. Now what I need to do here, I need to send a request to get user 1 and then user 2. So what I can do, I can just say const response 1 because that's for user one. It will be await, and here I need to fetch. I'm using fetch, of course. And as you can see here, I will go to user, but I don't want that actually. I want user with ID 1, so I need to say /1. Fine. And after that, here, what I can do here, I can just say const. Now that's user 2, for example, const user 3 if I want to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this one. Let's cut this one. Let's put it here. And here, let's cut this one as well. And voila. So that will be rest 2. And then I need to parse the body again, and I need to log it here. So let's log user 2, not user 1. I want user 2. Voila. And here I need to log user 1. So that's how we do it in sequential way. So as you can see, I'm saying wait until you go to this web API to the user and user 1. Then wait until you convert the body to JavaScript object and array. Then I want you to log the user 1. Then I want you to go to the same API, but to user 2. Then I want you to parse the body. Then I want you to log the user 2. So as you can see, this task will happen first, then this task will happen. And of course, I'm going to put it inside try and catch block. So we get used to it. So try and catch all the time, as you can see, is just like that, try and catch. And here I can use console.error to log the error. And I can just simply put my code inside the try block. Voila. Of course, I told you, whenever I want to do this, so let's try to call this function, because I'm not accessing the data outside here. What I'm trying to do here, I'm just trying to get my data here inside the function, that's outside. So let's go here and let's go to our test. And as you can see, I'm getting user 1 and user 2. But I want somehow to see this one, see my request. Is there any way to see my request in the DevTools? Is there any way to send my request in the DevTools? Can I see this request in my DevTools here? Which tab do you think it will be responsible for sending a request to the backend?
Network.
Of course, network. And in network, as you can see now, you learn a new tab here in your DevTools. So in the network, as you can see, you can select all, and it will show you all the files, all the requests like that. So that's my request to user 1 and give me 200, as you can see. Or you can just choose to only see the request to the backend. And here you need to click on fetch XR. And if I click on fetch /XHR, it will just give me my both requests, as you can see. So I have a request with user 1 and user 2. It's 200. It means, what does 200 means? What does 200 means?
It's okay.
Successful.
Successful, great. So now, as you can see, also it gives me the time needed to get this data. So for user 1, it take me 23 milliseconds. For user 1, it take me 21 milliseconds. Okay. And of course, if I click on user 1, notice what will happen. That's important. Click, and it gives me even more information. I can go to the header, and it will show me the URL. It will show me which method I am using. Am I using get, or am I using post, or am I using delete? And here I'm trying to get data. It will tell me the status 200. Okay. If I click on the preview, it will show me my data as a JavaScript object or array. If I click on the response, it will show me my data, but as a string, as you can see. That's the response here. It will be as a string, JSON string, as you can see. If I go to the initiator, it will also do something nice for me. Why? Because as you can see here, it will show me which function making this request. As you can see here, tell me get user. And if I click on it, it will take me more directly to the function making this request. And you may tell me, but that's simple. No, it's not. Because normally in your website, you may have thousands and 100,000 of functions. And you don't know really which function making this request. But if you know how to debug your code, you go to the initiator, it will show you directly which function making this request. And if I click on it, it will directly take me to my function. Is the idea clear? Yes? No? Hello? This network tab is super important when we are dealing with APIs.
Maybe
Now-
could you show us more about the network tab?
Yeah, so what do you need to know about the network tab? repeat it again or show more?
Show more and repeat it again.
But that's what you need to know, Agnieszka, for now. Okay, if you go to the network tab, you will have, as you can see, what's important for me is this tab here. If you want to see all your file being loaded, even the CSS and the images, stuff like that, your index, you need to click on all. But of course, I don't want that. What I want for me here, what I'm important for me is just what request I'm doing to the backend. That's why I need to click on Fetch HR. Of course, you can select only CSS if you want to, documentation, GS, fonts, stuff like that, images. You can select those, but we use the network most of the time just to see our request to the backend. Now, of course, if I refresh, so as you can see, one happened first, then second happened actually. It was really fast, that's why I did not see it 100%, but as you can see, that's my request. So what's important in this guy here, which is called network? Well, the first one, which is important here, is the status. And of course, it will show me the ID because I'm using different ID 1 and 2 and 200. Of course, it will be fetched all the time. The size, it will tell me how much the size of data. So 751, this one is a little bit bigger because it has more data, obviously. That's in byte. And also it will show me the time needed to get this request done or to get the data. As you can see, 43 milliseconds, 19 milliseconds. That's really nice. Cool. Now, if I want to know more information about my first request, I'm gonna click on one. If I click on one, it will show me more tab, as you can see. Let's go to the header. So what is the header? The header is metadata. When you do the request, your browser will send this data automatically. Okay, this is your browser, it will send this data automatically. And some of the important data, as you can see, it's my URL. And that's the URL I use to send the request, as you know, right? /1 for user one. What is the method? Get. We have 4 different methods. At least we have more, but the most important one is 4 different methods. We have get, when you try to get user from the backend. Post, when we try to add a new user to the backend. We have update, when you try to update a user that already exists on the backend, but we try to update the information. And we have delete user. Okay, what else did it give me? So for now, that's what's important for me. Sometimes we have some cookies here. We will study it on the backend because it's quite important. But for now, it's not important a lot for user cookies. But know that in the header also, we have some cookies, some stuff. The browser automatically sends them. Fine. But if I want to see my data, I don't want to log my data. I want just to see my data. Well, it's nice. You just click on preview and it will show you your data, as you can see. But this data, it will be parsed. That means it will be object or array. What if I want to see the response? It will show me, as you can see, as a string. So that's my data here. It's like a string JSON, as you can see. So it is string JSON. How could I know it's string JSON? Well, as you can see, we have double quote around everything. Fine. What if I want to know which function making this request? Because sometimes I have a lot of function in my website and I have a problem with one of these requests. So I need to know which function making this request. Well, it's quite simple. If I click on this one, it will show me directly in it, so in my file, init.js. So initiator, that means the function is calling or initiating this request. So if I click on it, it will take me directly to my function, which is very, very nice. After that, we have timing. Of course, timing here, it will just show you how much time it takes between different requests here. So that's not super important for you for now. But what's important for me now, it's just this one, initiator, response, preview. And if you want to know more information, you can just go to the head. What is it? This one? Click. Yeah, so you can go back here and you will see which time is taken even before. So here 44 milliseconds, this one 19 milliseconds. Is the idea clear? Yes, no, Agnieszka?
Yes, thank you.
But you need to get used to the network because it's super important. Now, as you can see here, the first request, which is user with ID 1 happened, then user with ID 2 happened. Even though that the user with ID 1 take more time, as you can see, 44 milliseconds, this one only 19 milliseconds. Why is that? Why? That's because I'm using sequential requests. So I am saying I want you to go to the user with ID1, get the data, parse the data, then I want to log them. Then I want you to go to the user 2 and then parse his data and then log them. And that's what we call sequential request or sequential task. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good, good, good. Very good. Now, what if I want to now? What if I want to see the second approach, which will be this one, the parallel one? Well, to use the parallel one here, we have a new thing we need to learn about promise, which is called promise.all. I've shared some link with you. Of course, we have promise.all, we have promise.trace, we have some different keyword. But what's important for me now is promise.all. So how does this promise.all work? Well, let's say I have promise 1, promise 2, promise 3. I will just say promise.all, and I need to put all my promises here. So promise 1, 2, 3, I want to put all of them inside an array. So it must be an array of promises. And here I can use either .then, and here the value I will receive, it will be the response from this one, from this one, from this one. Also, it will be an array of responses. Okay, let's go in detail a little bit. First, let's create, let me recreate my same function. This function, which is get users. I don't really want that. So let me remove this one here. And here, I just want to say const res, it's equal to away.fetch. And here I will need to pass ID here because I want to my function to be reusable. I want to try to use it with different users. So I need to make this one backtick. Why do I want to make it a backtick? Well, because I need to pass the ID here. And voila. And now I can use it with any user I want to. That's fine. That's the first one. So now here I need to pass my data. Voila. That's my passing my data. And I can just return. Here I can just return my data. That's all I need. Okay, fine. I don't want to call this one because it will return a promise. Now I told you async function, what does it return by default? Even if I don't want to, what does it return, async function? What does async function return by default?
Promise.
Yes, you shouldn't hesitate about that. Async function, all the time it will return a promise. Okay, now what do I want to do? I want to get user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, let's say. But I want now to use all this code, and I need to put them inside an array. So maybe I can say const users like that. Yeah, I need to just to get rid of this one. Const users, it's equal to an array like that. And now here, what I want to do? Well, I want to call this function by pass ID1. So I can just say get. Actually, it should be user, single user, not plural, because I'm trying to get one user. So here in the array, I can just say get users, or get user 1, get user 2, get user 3. So as you can see, what I am doing here, well, I'm having promise ones because this function will return a promise. I'm trying to get the user with ID1. Then I'm trying to get the user with ID2. This one also it will return a promise because my function is a async function. And then I'm trying to say get user with ID3. Of course, if you want, you can save them in a variable, then add them to array. It's okay. But I directly put them inside the array. Now, I have 3 promises or 4 or 10, it doesn't matter. I want to send these requests at the same time. How can I do that? Well, I can use a new keyword, as I told you. I can use promise.all. And promise.all, of course, I told you it take an array. So array of user, and that's my array. So I can pass my array this way, voila. And here, I can use .then. Of course, I can put this promise all inside another function and make it async function. It's possible as well. But let's now use then here. Then I just want to do what I want to do now. I just want to get, of course, I will get my, I'm trying to send this one. So promise.all, it will send a request to all of those. Now, all of those here, as you can see, in each function, I'm sending a request, I'm getting the data, I'm passing the data. So I will get my data. Actually, maybe it will be better to create a function. So let's const show, I will name it show users. And of course, it will be a async function as well. Now, because it's a async function, what I can do, I can just say const user data whatever you want to call it. User data, await promise.all, and I'm passing my user, and here I just want to log the user data. Now let's go to our chip and I'll check. Now
You did not pass as a parameter, huh?
Sorry,
You did not pass user as a parameter
where
in line number 17.
here? But I am calling Diniando as that's my user. See, I don't pass it as a para. I don't have to
Okay.
pass it as a para.
Yeah,
I can do it. I can create it inside my function if I want to. It's okay. It doesn't matter really. So as you can see inside my function, I have the user. That's my array of promises. And then here I need to use await promise.all. I will passing these users. That will be array of promises. By the way, I don't have to save it in a variable. I can directly put it if I want to. So let me remove the user like that. I can directly do that. It is fine as well. Okay, now here I have user. I need to wait promise.all because I'm using async. I need to use await here. Promise.all, as that's my promise 1, promise 2, promise 3. And then all I have to do here, of course, this user data, it will return me also an array of response. So I should give user 1, user 2, and user 3. And now here, if I go to log my data, refresh, I'm not calling the function. I need to call this function. That's the reason why nothing happening. So I need to call the function. If I don't call the function, it will not happen. As you can see, I have my user 1, user 2, user 3. And if I go to the console.log, notice I have my data for user 1, data for user 2, data for user 3, and they are inside an array. And that's simply what promise.all is doing. So what promise.all is doing, I need to pass array of promises to promise.all, and after that, it will send these all promises or send a request or try to resolve these promises at the same time, send a request to get user 1, user 2, user 3 at the same time, and then it will get the data. Of course, because now I am passing array of promises, the value it will return, it will be also array of result. And that's why I have an array of user 1, user 2, user 3. But if I get an error, with one promise of those, so if I get it with user 1 or user 2 or user 3, I will get nothing. So promise.all, it's like all or nothing. It's just like a lottery. Either I'm going to get all my data or I'm going to get nothing. Do you get my idea? So for example, let's try to do it with user 12, which I know it does not exist. Okay. And here, as you can see, I'm getting user does not. So let's try actually to do something else. Let's say minus 100. I will not be able to demonstrate it because it's not really an error. Okay, let me do some modification here. Let me just do some modification here. I will just say if res.status is not equal, is equal to 200, then I'm gonna parse the body, not 2200. Because I want to show what it means like that. Okay, cut, put it here. So what I'm doing here? Well, I'm checking if response, because I'm getting response. If response.status 200, or if it's not okay, whatever you want to, then I'm gonna parse my data, then I'm gonna return data. But if it's not, then what I'm going to do, I'm gonna throw an error. Voila. Now, if I go to my promises here, and I try 12 or 13, I know that 13 does not exist. So I will get an error here, unable to fetch the user. And because I'm throwing an error, I will go to the catch block. And as you can see here, unable to fetch the user, and I have an error. And of course, this one here is undefined, which is strange because normally it shouldn't give me my data actually. But it's only showing me the ID 1 and ID 2. Strange. Return a promise. So method, one of the promise method, it can be useful for aggregate the result on multiple promises. That means that multiple promises typically used when there are multiple related asynchronous tasks, overall code. All of when we, okay, that's fine. We'll reject immediately. So as you can see, promise.all will reject immediately if any of the input promise was being rejected. So if one of them is go wrong, it should reject all of them actually. But it's here, it does not reject, it just throw an error. Let's try to do something else. See if that will work or not. It shouldn't be correct, actually. Let's do 13. Still giving me the user with ID 2. Well, it shouldn't be like that, but that's what it's going to do. Anyway, simply that's promise.all. So promise.all, when we are trying to get multiple tasks at the same time. And remember here, I need to pass array of promises. So I can create a function, and I know this function, because it's a async function, it will return a promise. So I can put it with user, whatever user I want to. And after that, of course, I can either just directly call this one with .then and log the result, or I can just call it in another function, but this function need to be async. Why? Because this function, when I call it, it will return a promise. So this function also need to be async. And I'm using a way to wait for the promise.all, and I'm logging the data. Is the idea clear about promise.all? Is it quite clear what is
And
promise.all is doing?
can we do it promise.all and take all the users? And not only first, second, and third, but all that we can take from placeholder, JSON placeholder.
You can put as long as you want to, 20,
But
20.
But I need to like write it down, like get user 1, get user 2, and until like 200, for example.
Yes. So
Uh-huh.
every time you want to use it, you need to put your promises here. If you don't put it, it will not work, okay?
So I cannot do it like get user and all, and it will
No.
take all, no?
It doesn't exist this way.
Okay.
Because according to my function now here, I'm just trying to fetch one user, so I need to pass all the time. I want to get a different user. I need to put it inside the array and use the same function and put the ID, okay? That should be fine. That's promise.all. Now, promise.all, although theoretically promise.all is send a request all of them at the same time, but in reality, what you need to understand something. This one here is more theoretical idea. In practical life, that's not possible. Can anyone tell me why it is not possible to send, let's say, 20 requests at the same time? Why it is not possible to send 20 requests at the same time? 3. Why it is not possible to send multiple requests at the same time? I'm taking until 10, as you can see. Now let's go here. And now let's go to my network. Let's refresh and notice what will happen. So not really all of them happen at the same time, really. Maybe I can make the network a little bit slow. Let's see. Can I make? Yes. So let's make it slow, 3G. So here I can control my network, my internet connection here if I want to make it a little bit slow. So let's refresh. It looks like it's very slow. So it will take more time, of course. And as you can see, bending. So not all of them happen really at the same time, huh? Can anyone tell me why not all of them really happen at the same time? Notice, not all of them really happen at the same time. So this one happened first, then, and then. So not all of them really happen at the same time. Can anyone tell me why?
Because we are sending multiple requests.
Yes, but it's really depend on the browser. Because as you know, yeah, she can come, but some of them online. She can be.
Samir,
Come on. Yes.
can we have a break?
What time is it? It's 10?
No, 10:20.
Why, do you have a headache from that?
A little bit.
Okay, fine. Let me just explain this concept and I will take a break. So,
yeah, okay.
yeah, just a second. Because I don't want to. Okay. Your browser cannot do a lot of requests at the same time because simply, as I told you before, Node or JavaScript is a single thread. If JavaScript cannot execute the task, it will move it to the web API. And web API normally have 4 different threads. It's normally depend on the browser. Chrome can do maximum 6 to 8 requests at the same time. So if I have less than 8, it will be able to do them at the same time. But if there are more than 8, the browser will not be able to do multiple requests at the same time. So yeah, this one is theoretical. This approach is theoretical, but in practical, we cannot do that. Really, it depends on the browser, but I'm telling you, Chrome can send 6 to 8 max requests at the same time. Okay? Is it clear what I'm trying to explain?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a break, then 10, 20 minutes, and then after that. Okay, so what do you need to do now? You understand thinking parallel? So what we're going to do now, we go to this one here, promise.all. This is just some reading here, nothing big. You go to the example, and here's the example is just explaining promise.all here. Actually, let me go to study lenses, it will be better. So let's go to thinking parallel here. Here, this is just some examples. There is no exercise here. So just some, it's trying to explain just the task, how they will be done sequentially and in parallel. So this is just some exercise. You can just read them here sequential here. But what's important here is promise.all. We need to go to the example here, resolve multiple promise. So here is just explaining what is promise.all. As I explained here, promise.all take array of promises. And after that, it will return array of values. So here we have delay value log. So as you can see what they are trying to do, let's say we have promise 1, we have promise 2, we have promise 3, and all these promises here. So we have a function, this function is equal to delay value. So the function we already created, this function return a promise, and here what they are trying to do, okay, that's my promise B, that's my promise A, that's my promise C, that's my promise D. I need to put all of them inside an array, and then I can use promise.all. And of course, I need to pass here, as you can see, array of promises. Then I will receive array of value, and then I can just log it. Here they are not using, I think, await in these functions. They are just using then and catch. Is the idea clear here in this example? Yes, no? Hello? What happened to you?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, handling rejection. Well, if you remember now here, this function we used it before, which is fetch user by ID. I told you fetch user by ID return what?
A promise.
Promise. So here inside, as you can see, inside an array, we have fetch user by ID 1, 2, 3, 4, just like I did. Promise.all, they're passing the array of the promises. Then I will get, of course, user, which will be array of user 1, 2, 3, 4 data. And then here, what they are doing, they're mapping through each user.map, and they're logging. Here, they're just trying to return or log this one, which is user ID and username. So it should be simple now. That's simply what promise.all is doing. Yes, no.
Yes. Yes.
Name in range, name by ID, not okay. So okay, let's see. All of them are the same idea here. So here, what you need to do, those are, of course, their example, and those are the exercises. So all you have to do, you have to go to those, and you need to use promise.all. They're already, you need to document your function, use promise.all. And most of the time you'll use this function actually. So what this function here is doing, it will return a promise. So here user promise was doing their mapping through each one of them. So IDs.map. So I need to have array of IDs, of course. It will map through this ID, and after that it will return for each of them. It will return a promise. So it will make a promise here. User promise, it will be an array. Then after that, I will need some info here. So you need to modify this one to pass this test or these tests here. So you just have 1, 2, 3, 4 exercises. And here's the example, just read them. And if you have any question, of course, you can ask me. And whenever you are done with this one, so I'm gonna give you some time. After that, I will explain you. Maybe I can explain the project now here. Let's click on this one. You can also go to async. Oh, wait, no, we've seen it. This one here. You don't need it. That should be good. In fact, fetching also we have async await. So here it shows you the function async await. Some example here. There is some exercises as well. So you can also try to do this one here. In fact, fetching 4, you have async await. That's first. And then after that, you can go sync in parallel. And sync in parallel, all of those here, what's important is the exercise here. You can also read the example. So that will be the second task. This one, number 6, we will not study it. And then, yeah, maybe I can give you today this task and tomorrow I can give you the project. What do you think? Yeah? No?
Yes, yes, like that.
Good idea.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you tomorrow a project, and today here all you have to do in fact fetching number 4, you need to do async await. I just explained it. Sync in parallel, you can read those if you want to, but what's important here, promise.all, you need this example and these exercises. This one does not exist. Web API here, just some example, which is Pokemon and type code. Don't worry about that. But let me show you what will be your project. It will be for tomorrow, but just to show you. We have something called jokes. Let's take jokes. So it will be get joke here. I will give you the API, and what you need to do really here. Yeah. So if I open my DevTools here and I go to the network and I select fetch and refresh this one. If I click on this one, it will give me a joke, as you can see. And of course, the joke here, why do front-end developer eat lunch alone? Because they don't know how to join tables. Yeah, that should be a joke. Anyway, and yeah, so you just need to make a joke here. And of course, if you say get a joke, it will give you another joke like that. Every time you click on this one, it will show you a new joke. And of course, it will send a request each time, as you can see. If I click on this one, it send a request. I have my data. If I click again, it will send me another request. Each time I click on this button, it send me a request and it get me a new joke. So that will be a project I will explain tomorrow.
Samir, and why do we have true false on the front end?
When do you have to?
Can you go back and open your web browser?
Okay.
You show the project.
Jokes like that.
Mm.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, here we have Boolean, but why do we need it on the front end? I mean, on the web page.
To filter the joke.
Where is the Boolean?
Like sexist false, religion false.
Okay, let me explain it. I didn't want to explain the project now, but I'll show you.
Okay, never mind. So we can
No, don't worry. So as you can see, now each joke, sometimes this joke as a religious joke, some of them are political, some of them are sexual, some of them are racist. So if one of those are red, it will show you as a red here.
But my question, why it renders to the web page like false or true instead of just change the color?
Yeah, but it's just that's what I want to. Here you can change whatever you want to. So in the front end, it is depending what you want. It's just that's how I want to show it. But you can change it the way you want to. Okay.
Okay.
If you just show me here, okay, if I want the joke is it religious, no, tell me false, it's not religious. Is it racist? No, it's not racist. It is political, stuff like that. You get me? But for example, is it explicit, true, and so on?
Okay, so you highlight it in two ways, with color and with the Boolean.
Yes, both of them. But again, you can modify it if you want to. It's not a problem.
Okay, got it.
Anyways, that will be for tomorrow. Don't worry for now. And now, as I told you, what's important for you now, what you need to try to do, What the hell? What happened? Voila. So what you need to do, you need to go to fetching. You have async await here. Example and exercise should be simple. And then sync in parallel, you can just, this is our diagram, and here there's some examples, that's it. The problem is that all here is the exercise, you need to do them. You have all the day to do them. And like, they're not too much, they're too little. Actually, you have the whole day to do, finish them, and also do the Anani presentation. So tomorrow I will give you your project. Of course, if you have any question, you just have to tell me, okay? Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
we're done for now. If you want to leave to the class now, you can. If you want to wait later, it's fine as well.
So the Anani presentation finally will be at what time?